I'm very excited to have the opportunity to speak with country music singer and songwriter Paige King Johnson. Paige, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us about this amazing journey that you're on.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it.
First I thought maybe you could just tell us a little bit about how you got into music. How did it all start for you? Where did it begin?
So I was always the child who never shut up. My mom said that I was constantly talking, singing, making some kind of noise, trying to draw attention to me. And I grew up in a small town in North Carolina. And so, in true Southern fashion, you grow up singing in your church and doing all kinds of stuff in your church all the time. And so music was kind of always in my blood. And then when I was 10 years old, my grandpa actually bought me a guitar. I had been taking piano lessons a few years before and kind of expressed interest in it. And he kind of saw that glimmer in my eye. And so he bought me a guitar for Christmas that year. And he really pushed me to get into lessons and just trying to learn it and, see how singing and playing went. And so I kind of just went into it, not knowing what was going to happen. And then that following Easter, my grandpa actually passed away. And so I really took that as, my sign that I needed to really put my time into this and kind of see where it was going to take me, because he had believed in me so much and put in that initial investment into me. And so I really just kind of put my head down and got into music, and I fell in love with playing and performing and eventually songwriting, and it just kind of became part of me. And whenever I realized, hey, this is stuff that people do for a living, and this is a career option,
Yeah.
I knew there was no other option for me. And so I've been hooked ever since. And I took the big step and moved from my hometown to Nashville about 5 years ago. And it's been one of the greatest rides.
Do you feel like there was maybe a moment like a defining moment, like when you got there or on your way, well, let's say when you got there, that you really felt like, okay, this career thing that people do talk about, like you said, that I could do this, that's something that happened, someone that encouraged you, inspired you, something that happened, an event that helped you say, okay, I can go through school here and I can then pursue this?
Yeah, I think it was right after I graduated. So I moved there to go to college, and the year after I graduated was really the time where I knew I was going to be able to go in and have time to do music full time, which was, my dream and the reason why I moved out there. And so that was really when I started writing for my debut EP and started recording it, which was a whole new process for me and so much fun. And this was all 2019, so last year, which feels like 8 years ago.
Oh boy, I'll tell you, I understand.
But and so that year was just full of so many firsts for me as far as my career, between recording my first EP in Nashville and then going from that to going and releasing the first single off of it and doing radio tour and then recording the first music video for it. And so it was just so much momentum and so much fun and all new things for me. And just to be able to see how much everything just kind of called on, and how supportive people were and how responsive they were to the music that I'm putting out, which is a dream for me. I mean, I sit around writing music all the time. And so to be able to know that I'm releasing music and writing music that, not only I connect with, but that other people enjoy and connect with and want to hear. That's the whole reason why we're in this thing. So
Yeah.
Last year was probably the biggest turning year for me. And I'm just so grateful for it.
Yeah. So many firsts, like you said, so many first things, first times to experience a radio interview, a showcase, a meeting with a producer, whatever it is, a small radio tour, whatever it is, and whatever it was the first time doing that. And I'm sure, and hopefully, and I really feel like just seeing how you interact with people in your interviews, just trying to learn a little bit about you, Paige, and seeing, I don't think you'll ever get tired of it. I don't think you will. I think this is your thing, this is your thing.
It's what I'm meant to do. I tell people all the time there's no plan B. There's only plan A. And so it's going to work or it's going to work.
You know, I teach some music lessons and everything, and I always try to tell my students that maybe going into theater, if they're going into theater or into singing, I always tell them about the plan B. But like you're already past that. You're already kind of far enough along that plan B is that's we don't want to hear about plan B. This is plan A and straight ahead, you know. But
Yeah.
with some of those kids that just get started out, I always tell them in the back of their mind, and I'm sure at the beginning you had one, but I don't think you need one now. I don't think you need one now anymore.
Well, and so many people in the music industry, you know, they'll tell you if you have a plan B, then you're not made for this.
There you go. I like that. I like that.
You
That
have
is
to be
really,
stubborn enough to make it work.
yeah, absolutely true. Wow, that's pretty to think about that. That's so true. Can't have a plan B. Gotta just do
Parents probably
straight
don't
ahead.
want to hear that.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't. But you know what? You know what? It's from what I can see, it sounds like your whole family's on this journey with you and everything they're doing to help you. And so at first, maybe it took a little bit of arm twisting and saying, hey, you know what? I really want to do this. And said, okay, well, let's sit down and talk about this. But I could tell they're so supportive of you, your family.
They are. They're great. I couldn't do it without them.
Yeah. When you went to school, I understand you studied music business and everything in Nashville. So you were trying to pursue the dream, and then you were also taking your classes. Was there any one specific class or any kind of something in your coursework that really helped you to get grounded for this journey now that you're out of school?
This is really nerdy of me, but I have a very much of a business mind as well.
That's
And
important.
probably, I had one class that was music industry contract law. And it taught me so much about contracts and, you know, what artists deserve within deals and everything else. And that was a huge eye opener for me because I had never had any kind of class like that before. And I was, like I said, I was just kind of starting to get into all this stuff. And B, it just kind of gives you some street smarts on the music industry street side. And you know, so many people, you hear all these horror stories about artists who, you know, they have the talent and they have the grit and they have everything that it takes, but you know, they just they don't really know what's going on with behind the scenes with everything, and things can kind of get out of hand with that. And so I would probably say that's probably been one of the most beneficial classes that I took. I mean, all of them were, and I learned so many different things, and Belmont has the coolest professors ever. But yeah, that was probably one of the contract law class was probably one of the most helpful.
I could see how that would be so important because people do, you know, if someone comes up to you and says, hey, we want to record you. We want to give you a label deal, and we want you to tour, and we want you to do all of that. You hear too many horror stories in the business about how someone, maybe they're famous, they're famous, everybody knows them, but they haven't been able to make a penny off of all their hard work and all their everything they put into it. And it's because of a contract. Sometimes the fine print, there's a lot to be said about the fine print in a contract for anything.
It is very much so, and thankfully, I grew up in a family. My parents are real estate agents, so I've grown up around contracts, and I know the importance of them. And so it's been drilled into me that you gotta read every single line before you put any kind of mark on that paper.
And it's funny because when you are signing things like that, you know, they're like, oh, it's just this says this and this says that and boop, 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 just turn the page, and you almost feel like you're being rushed sometimes. And it's like, boy, read every last dot in that contract, you know, boy.
So this is the PSA to all y'all.
Yes, exactly.
Read the contracts.
Oh my goodness, yes. So let's talk a little bit about the process that you go through to write a song. I mean, it's a fun process. I write a little bit. I mean, not we're at the level that you're writing, but I love to write music and I love to write songs. You know, what's easier for you, coming up with a melody or coming up with lyrics?
It really depends on what kind of mood I'm in. I tell people if I'm trying to build up lyrics or, you know, hook ideas or whatever, I usually have to go on a walk. And especially during quarantine, I've done a lot of that. And so anytime I go on a walk, I take my trusty phone with me. And I just have so many random notes of just, you know, one-liners or, you know, song title ideas that may come up, or if it's old things and I'll come up with a line or something like that. And so I have that, but also I also have my phone, and if I come up with some kind of melody or um, anything like that, I'll just, sing into it while I'm walking and I'm looking around like all my neighbors know I'm crazy. Sorry. But it's never really a melody first thing for me. It's either lyrics solely or lyrics and melody together. But I'm not talented enough to hear my mind just, a cool melody and be able to put lyrics to it later. I wish my brain worked like that, but it doesn't all the time. I mean, I play guitar and I attempt to play piano, so I can figure it out if I can hear it in my head, but it's usually lyrics solely or lyrics and music together.
So when you do the lyrics and music together part, do you find more comfort with a guitar in your hands or sitting at the piano?
Guitar, definitely. So I started out in music lessons in piano when I was probably 6 years old. And I took piano lessons for about 4 years. But then whenever I was 10 and I got my guitar, that's when I started doing guitar lessons. And I got obsessed with guitar. And so I pushed the piano to the side. And it honestly hasn't been until quarantine. Back at the beginning of March, I left Nashville and came back home here in North Carolina to be with my family, thinking, oh, I'll just be here a few weeks. But here we are 5 months later, and I've only been back to Nashville once. And so I've been stuck in my childhood home with my old piano that was actually my mom's whenever she was young. And so me and the old piano have gotten reacquainted. And it's been really fun to sit down and, well, to have a piano just to be able to go sit down at any time, but to kind of reteach myself and get back on it some. I'm still not strong enough to be able to sit down and write on it yet. I'm definitely more comfortable with my guitar, but we're getting there.
Well, I've seen you do a little bit of, sitting down at the piano on your social media and talking about your piano. And a little side question here. I was wondering, have you found a way to ship it back to Nashville? Yeah, I know you talked about that.
No, and I'm getting nervous about it because my parents are getting ready to move. They're building a house, and so the conversation has come up many times about where the piano is going, and I'm thinking, y'all know they make U-Hauls, right?
That's right.
We could just ship it right on back down the road to Nashville with me.
I just have this vision of you kind of rolling it down the street many, many miles saying, if you're not going to get that U-Haul, then I'll push it back to Nashville. I just know you're determined. I can tell.
Give it to me.
With your songwriting, do you I know you've showcased a couple songs at the Bluebird Cafe. What was that like, knowing all the people that sat in those chairs and have started their careers in that building the first time you walked in that room? Wow, goodness.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's crazy. Nashville, well, it's full of music venues. Everybody knows that, but there's a few Nashville venues that when I walk into, like, I get the chills or I get freaked out, or just you can feel it in there. Number one would be the Ryman Auditorium. I love the Ryman, and any show of any artist that I remotely enjoy or want to hear, I'm there because that is truly a holy place for many reasons. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. And number two was the Bluebird Cafe. I mean, knowing the history of it, and like you said, how many people have gotten their start there, and being a songwriter nerd as well. Being able to go in there it's such a special thing for many reasons. Another being that you can barely ever get tickets because they sell out so quickly.
Yeah.
But to be able to play in there was absolutely insane. And so humbling, and still just, one of those top career highs for me, for sure. And because, I mean, and in all Nashville venues, you never know who's in the crowd. and what they're going to hear and if they're going to like it or anything. So it's definitely one of those places where you kind of have to be on your toes all the time and be game on.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard so many neat stories about that space and about things that have happened to people, like getting bumped up in the lineup from number 9 to number 2 and getting someone to see you that wouldn't have seen you. They would have left after the third person that they were coming to see. And then it turned into a career. Garth Brooks can talk about that, I've heard him talk about it. And boy, the fate that happens in that room.
Yeah.
A chance meeting.
Did you watch the what was it, a documentary that they did on the Bluebird?
I have not seen that. No, I've read a book about it, but I've about the Bluebird, but I've never seen the documentary. There is one out now currently, or is it a couple years old?
There is one, and I'm trying to remember what it's on because it's on my list to watch as well. There's been so many people in Nashville and just friends in the industry who have told me about it. And so it's on my list to watch. I was going to see if you had seen it yet or not.
No, but I will look for it now because I'm just so fascinated. I mean, I've been to Nashville I'm from Chicago. I live in Chicago my whole life. So, but it's my favorite place to go and spend time when I can. It's hard to break away too often, but the times I've been there and I've passed by the Bluebird and I've tried to look into getting tickets and I'm just never organized enough to have my tickets before I get there.
They literally sell out in 5 minutes after they go on sale for tickets for shows. So you would be blessed if you got tickets.
Yeah. So see, I have to be more focused on that. I have to
plan ahead, Kevin.
Oh my goodness. One of the coolest things in Nashville is the Wild Horse Saloon still rolling and
it is. Yeah.
One of the coolest things we just went down there on a family vacation. I always look up things when I go to a city that has music, and obviously there's not a shortage of music in Nashville. So no. They were taping something for TV at the Wild Horse, and the lineup was just amazing. It was Jody Messina, Tanya Tucker, it was Loretta Lynn's 2 daughters, the Lynns, and Terry Clark. And it was an evening event. It was called Ladies Night Out is what it was. They were taping for, the Nashville network at the time. And we walked in there at lunchtime just to kind of get a scope of the evening because we were going to go for the taping. We walked in there at lunchtime. Well, we ended up having lunch there and watching the whole warm-up, the whole rehearsal. They just let us sit in there and watch the whole rehearsal for the show, and then we saw it at night.
Holy cow.
It was the coolest thing. And then we met Jody Messina and the Lynns. It was just the neatest thing. I always feel in Nashville, my goodness, I've been around music for so many years and worked in the rock and the pop part of the industry and country too. But that was one of the many genres I was working with. But when you go to Nashville, everybody's so laid back and everybody's just relaxed and enjoying their lives. I love it.
Yeah, we're just there to have fun.
I love that environment. It's so
when you're a city that's just fueled on like music and Bud Light, you gotta just roll with the punches.
Yeah. Is there do you ever write a song with someone else's voice in mind, like maybe a country legend or someone who's singing today? Say, I have their voice in my mind. Like, I know you write songs obviously for yourself. That's a first priority. It's got to be a first priority songs for me. But like, there are so many country songwriters who write for other people too and they have their name is on a lot of credits. Anybody like that?
I don't know that I necessarily write with, oh, this would be a great song for Reba, or oh, this would be a great song for Blake Shelton, but I definitely write in the mind space of, okay, I want to write a song like, Loretta Lynn's You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man, which I have done because I love Loretta Lynn, I'm the first to say. And to try to emulate that. But I don't know that I've ever written thinking, oh, this would sound great in George Strait's voice. I wish. Please, if anybody knows him, call him up. I would be happy to send over. We can make any of the songs sound like him. But I don't know that I ever do that. Maybe it's because I'm selfish and I like all the songs for myself. But, and it may be just because most of the songs that I do write are very, I don't know which is the right term, biographical, autobiographical, about me and my life and how I grew up, which I realize is very much can be very similar to the way that a lot of other people are as well. But I can't say I do.
I just see so many people that have so many songwriting credits, and you're just at the very beginning of your career, and you know, a long career for many, many years to come, I'm sure. And it's just so interesting how people have like a two-sided career sometimes, especially I think more in Nashville. I mean, a lot of people in pop, other people write for them, not everybody, of course. There's, you know, a lot of great country, I mean, a lot of great pop writers, but that there just seem to be more people in Nashville that write for lots of other people too, or they at least have a songwriting credit with 4 other people on someone's song.
Absolutely. Well, because Nashville is such a songwriting town.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't spend a lot of time in New York or LA. I've visited, but I've never really dug into the music scene there. But I just know that Nashville is such a songwriting town. I mean, and a lot of the artists, I feel like they all kind of get their start as songwriters and then become artists later. I mean, from, you know, Maren Morris and Kelsey Ballerini to, you know, Ryan Hurd and all of those people, they were and are great songwriters first. And I mean, it's so funny that some of them, they'll tell you first that they moved to town with no intentions whatsoever of wanting to be an artist. And then it just kind of fell in their lap. And so it's just kind of, we're all songwriting nerds and we love it. And I mean, I write with a lot of other artist friends of mine all the time. And, you know, we're working on stuff right now and they're planning on releasing it. And I'm overjoyed because as a songwriter, I mean, that's one of the biggest accolades that you can have, is having somebody else record one of your songs and love it so much. And, you know, for you to be able to craft a story that can fit somebody else so perfectly is an art in itself. And so I hope and I pray that it will happen, because I just think it's one of the coolest things ever.
And you talked a little bit about George Strait and saying, you know, hey, writing a song for him would be kind of the coolest thing in the world. And then you talk about people you're writing with. Let's combine those two things together and just ask you, is there anybody that you would dream to write with? Like, you're dreaming with a lot of people right now, a lot of people in Nashville that have songwriting careers. Is there any dream co-writer that you would like to sit down and say, let's write something together? Call me, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, number one would be Lori McKenna. I don't know if you've ever listened.
I do, because she wrote for Faith Hill, right? She wrote for Faith Hill.
And she writes for Tim McGraw
yeah.
and a bunch of people in town. She is one of the most talented songwriters that I don't know, but that I know of. And she's one of those people who is a songwriter first and an artist just whenever she wants to be, just because she is that talented. And but the way that she can craft a song and that she can write on the whole spectrum of, you know, she was the sole songwriter for Tim McGraw's Humble and Kind, and it was just a prayer that she sat down and wrote for her children. And so she can write something like that, and then she can write something super fun, upbeat party song for the Cadillac 3 in Nashville. And so she's just insanely and unfairly talented woman.
Yeah.
And so to be able to sit down and honestly just to see how her craft works, but to be able to write with her is a dream, and will be a dream for me till the day that I am 6 feet under.
That's so neat, you know, because I had the pleasure of helping to promote one of her records from Chicago, you know, I had worked with a record label and she put a record out and helped to promote it. So I learned a little bit about her. It's so neat to hear that new perspective about how really impressive, you know, her songwriting is just to someone young like yourself starting out. That's so neat to hear it. It makes me want to, when we hang up here, I got to grab my Lori McKenna CD and give it a listen, because I didn't really, you know, I haven't spent a ton of time with, we've had to promote so many CDs. Yes. And I listened to it. I spent the time with it. I loved it. And then you start to go on, you have to work on these other 80 projects. And it's like, oh my goodness, I have to go back and spend some time with that.
You do. And it's like going to church when you listen to her record. Was it the Tree album that you worked on?
I can't think of the title. I'd have to look back at my, you know, I know you've talked about physical CDs. and
Yes.
about liking that. I'm a collector, and I keep, when I worked for the record label, you part of my job was to listen to music. That was a tough job. Listen to music. I'd be sitting at my desk and a pile of CDs would show up, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
okay, I twist my arm, listen to some more music. So I've collected them over the years.
So next 4 hours, here we go.
So it's been so neat because I've amassed so many CDs over my lifetime, and I keep them all. But I mean, I'm like kind of like an archivist rather than just listening to what I will listen to. I want to keep a copy of everything. So I know I have one of her CDs. I'll have to find out which one it was.
It's great.
Um,
She's amazing.
have you seen her perform live in one of the songwriting showcases?
I actually saw her at the Ryman.
Oh, neat.
She opened up for Patty Griffin. This
Yep.
was probably 2018, I believe, and maybe it was 2019. And it was, Lauren McKenna was the opener, and it was just her and her guitar in the Ryman. And I think I cried 5 times. It's so good. I love her so much, and I'm such a nerd about her.
I just think that's so neat, and to get to hear her in the space that you said is like, sacred ground, and it's just the history. Boy, I don't do a lot of picture taking when I go in places like, you walk out of a ride and there's the picture of you on the roller coaster, or there's the picture but when I went to the Grand Ole Opry on vacation on a trip there, and they have the circle
Yes.
on the stage, I just had the chill standing there, which I had the chill standing on that with my family on that circle. They had to come from the Ryman, right? Had been cut out of the Ryman, moved over to the Grand Ole Opry, and I had a chill. Oh my gosh.
I have them right now. You talking about it? I mean, and as an artist, that's every artist's dream, is to be able to, step into that circle, especially, I mean, country artists, but and it's probably just a lot of knowing how much history and how many important and, at the time, not really that big named people have stood there, and, where they've gone. It's probably more of like what is, like, just the omens of everything that are bottled up in that, 6-foot round circle.
Yeah. You feel like this light, this shining light around, like an aura of light as you stand there, like, oh, it's just like, oh my goodness. Overwhelming.
Yeah,
Wow.
wish you could bottle that feeling up and just take it with you, and then on days that you don't feel great, just pop a little bit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the songs that you've been promoting so heavily, over the last several months at the end of this past year and into 2020 is Water Down the Whiskey. And it looks like between your live performance of this song, the video you made, you're definitely turning heads with this, and ears are going to the street to hear this. How, maybe talk a little bit about that journey of how this song, did you always feel like that was going to be that big for you?
It's crazy. So I call Water Down the Whiskey my first big girl release. And it was kind of a crazy journey all last year. I wrote the song with my friend and co-writer Mike Astrakin, who's from Nashville, and we wrote it at the end of January, and we had actually only met each other at the beginning of January. And we wrote it at the end of January. We recorded it in May. We released it out on my EP in July, and then we released it to country radio in October. Recorded a music video for it in October. Released the music video this past January, and so it's just been, I call it the little song that could for me, with it being my first release and everything. I go into things, I tell people, with high hopes but low expectations, so that you're not let down.
Yeah.
And it floored me how much support and reaction that it did get from me. With it being my first single, I didn't really know what to expect, and I was just really happy to have something out. and to have something on physical CD and to say that it was
Oh,
mine and that I
yeah.
had
Yeah.
a part in writing it, and really was present throughout the whole project. And so um, I had no idea what it was going to do, and it just blew me away, and it still blows me away. Um, to know that I can create music that is something that people can relate to, or that they enjoy listening to, or just to know that that is something that people choose to go listen to whenever they're scrolling through their iTunes library or whatever. It's just super humbling for me to be able to uh, have that and know that, because people don't have to listen to it if they don't want to. And so it's a really good thing. And the storyline behind the song is one of being in a relationship, and the person not really giving as much into it as you're giving to them, and kind of seeing the signs of a breakup coming on, which I think is something that everybody has probably experienced in some
Sure.
form or fashion.
Sure.
And none of us like breakups. They're not fun, but being strung along by somebody is even worse. And so, the whole message of the song is very much a female or male empowerment of, I will be just fine without you, but, just go on, break it off, rip the Band-Aid off, let's be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a sentimental song, but
No, it's not. But it's relatable. Like you said, it's relatable. Everybody's gone through that at some point in their life.
Mhm.
Anybody who says that they haven't is lying, because it's everybody in some way, even metaphorically, has gone through that, pulling the Band-Aid off, and with either a relationship or something that they do in their life that they change their path. And there's always a way to equate those lyrics. Yeah. So I know right now you have another single on the way shortly. Just like you, correct? It's
Yeah.
on the way soon, sometime in the near future.
Well, 2020 is just a big old question mark
I know.
for many reasons, but also in the planning stages. But yes, it is on the way. We're hoping late fall with it. We just actually wrapped up shooting the music video for it last week in Nashville. So we're getting things together. It's coming.
Well, I know your fans are excited to hear new music, because once you give them a taste of your songwriting with your current single, they want more. They're ready for more now. I know they are. So it's like it's exciting to now see and look at that journey you talked about from January of 2019, all the months of the year that to work on that one song. And typically an album later on when you do a full length, 10 times, I know we promote a couple singles from every album, but still 10 songs that in some way mean something so important to you that even if they're not going to be a radio promotion song for you, they're going to mean something because you wrote them and you put time into them. Think of they're all like little children or something along the way of a.
They're my little song babies, is what
There
I
you
call
go.
them.
I like that.
I'm a mother to my little song children.
So wait till you have like 100 of them, like wait till you have a.
I know. My catalog keeps growing as quarantine continues. I'm like, all right, here we go. Who'd have thought I had 175 children?
Yeah, that's so cool to think, and then the lyrics, and think about this song and that song and how it's to go back and think about the songs as you build them and write them, and then when you're doing a show years from now, capture this moment in your head. Think about this. You're working on several songs right now, and 10, 20 years from now, when you have all these songs, and you say, okay, I'm going to play off my first album, 10 albums ago, so that's going to be something fun to see and experience.
It's crazy to think about. I mean, and as fans of music, you're talking about longevity of careers and stuff. We all kind of we gravitate to whatever songs that we prefer and that we like because of whatever, if they came at a point in our life when it meant something or whatever. And it's just crazy to think like you go to a concert of Alan Jackson or whoever, and you have Chattahoochee in your brain, but
right.
he's in there and he's made a completely different set list, and he didn't even think about that. And it's just crazy to think that there's so many great songs for artists like that to choose from. And that in their mind, that, I mean, it was, 20, 30 years ago in their career.
Yeah. It's really daunting to think about all those songs. And yeah, when you do make a set list like that many albums in your career, someone's going to leave the concert venue sad because they're going to miss their favorite song, but you can't possibly hit them all. You can't when you have a career like that.
No. When you have, 3 number one greatest hits albums.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. Or like you said, George Strait, I think he's got 40 number ones or something on his CD, 40 number ones. That's just unthinkable.
His whole concert is just number one.
And I've never seen him live, but boy, do I follow his career. I've just never had the pleasure to see him live.
It's great. I've seen him live once with Martina McBride, actually.
Okay.
An amazing concert.
I'm sure. So you worked with Bill McDermott on this song and maybe a couple other songs in the past of your songwriting. One of the biggest producers in today's country music world, working with Tim McGraw, Gretchen Wilson, Martina, you just mentioned, Brad Paisley, and now he's working with you.
Yeah.
What is that experience? That's so neat, though. What has that experience been like, to think about all these people that he sat down with, and now he's sitting down with you?
I mean, it was really intimidating at the beginning. As a young person in this whole music scene, I'm very grateful for anybody who expresses interest in my music and in my career, and that believes in me enough to be able to invest their time into me. And but I also do this thing where I don't Google people whenever I figure out that I'm going to go work with them, because I don't want to intimidate myself or belittle myself and make me think that, you're not going to be good enough, because that's just, I think that's something that everybody should do no matter what they do. Just don't Google people. Just go into whatever meeting with a new person that you're doing and like you're the best person they've ever worked with. And so we went in and we immediately clicked on so many levels of just the music that we like to listen to, and what kind of ideas I had for the tracks of the songs that we were recording at the time. And I told him, which I tell everybody, I'm a sucker for a steel guitar. I don't care where it's at, I don't care what it sounds like, but if my music doesn't have a steel guitar when we walk out of this studio, I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah.
And so I mean, it was just instantaneous friendship first, and then a working relationship after that. And he's just he gets me on that level, and that's very important when you're finding a producer to work with. And he believed in my music, and he really enjoyed it. And so it immediately took out all of that other worry of, oh my gosh, I know I'm not Martina McBride, so is he gonna want to continue to work with me, and all that kind of stuff. And so it's been great, and I love working with Bill. He's hilarious. And he is from New York and I'm from North Carolina, so very different on the accent spectrum. And we just pick back and forth at each other all the time about ways that we talk, so it worked.
I'm sure there's not a conversation that goes by when you say a sentence and you reevaluate the way you said a word with each other, right?
Yeah. Or he goes, I'm sorry, what did you just say? It's fun. I get it more often than you would think. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's so important to really have a good foundation relationship with a producer, because you're putting all of your songwriting babies into their hands and your career, and it's so important. And there are some amazing people out there that their craft of producing is amazing, but I don't know that you could say that about everybody. Every producer is that hands-on and that easy to work with. So it's nice that you have to have both. I think, my opinion, you have to have both to have that trust.
Absolutely. And I mean, it was so fun to be able to record the project with him that we did last spring, because he very much wanted me to be involved in everything. And so not only was I there during the tracking, for the band, and then I obviously had to go in and do vocals later. But even when we had the steel guitar player come in and do overdubs, and when we had the background vocalist come in, you know, he'd shoot me a quick text or call me and he'd say, hey, so and so is coming over about the studio today this afternoon. Come by. I want you to hear and make sure that this is what you want and this is what you hear in your head with it all. And so it was very important for me for all this to be a hands-on thing, because it was a new experience. And he saw the value in making sure that, you know, I was on the same page and that this is what I wanted it to be. And so it was a dream to work with him, and still is.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds amazing, because you hate to have a song in the can already done and say, that's not what I envisioned for that song so much. You're like, well, the record comes out in 3 weeks, so we just got to push it. So it's like, you know, you've been along every note on that record and that song and other songs you've done. The EP too, right? The EP, you worked with him a little bit too, or a lot? That
Yeah.
was his thing too, right? Yeah. Big Girl World.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. You know, if you look at the country charts today, or you spend some time listening to the radio, there aren't as many young female singers as there are male singers. And, you know, is there anything you'd say to someone that might help inspire more young female singers to go and chase this, that you're living proof that this can happen to them too, that they can just get out there and record, right?
Yeah, number one, don't be a female in country music. Just be a country music singer.
Yeah, right.
You know, I feel like a lot of it is in your head. I mean, obviously, I love being a female. I love getting to put on makeup and jewelry, and I think we get a lot cooler outfits than guys. Because if I just had to put a ball cap every day and a white T-shirt, I would get really annoyed. But I think it's very much a mindset of, if you put yourself on an equal playing field with everybody at the beginning and just walk into any room, any meeting, go into any email with that mindset that, you know what, I just as much deserve to be here as much as any up and coming guy or any Luke Combs or any George Strait or, you know, whatever level age that you're at. I think that's the biggest thing. And, you know, I love all of the movements and, you know, all the groups that are coming together and really trying to raise awareness, because, I mean, there does need to be awareness to it. But I think us women on the other side of it, you know, we have to just kind of put our heads down and prove that, you know, they're missing out on all this stuff.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? If they don't catch on, then all of us are just going to band together and we're just going to take over. So. Right.
It's their loss, and they'll be looking from the sidelines later on. If they don't listen now, they'll be watching you guys from the sidelines doing, you know, making this great music, and they'll be like, how come we can't get on the radio? What's going on with this? And It's a movement.
Absolutely. And I mean, and it's so nice to know that in, you know, 21st century, there's so many different ways that us as artists can reach fans, and that we can put out our own music without having to be approved by other people. And, you know, it's as easy time now to be an independent artist and to be able to make your own shots and you know, rule your own career and make it however you want it to look like. And so it sucks that there is such inequality in numbers on the bigger scale, but I still think there are so many women in country music and all kinds of music that are still making such a big impact, and you know, using their platform as an artist and with their audiences to do stuff so much farther than just music. And it's just so great. And you know what, we're all fired up, and so something's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's right. There are so many amazing female country singers, and you just, there's no reason that there should ever be any kind of division and it's going to be neat to watch. You're like kind of on the edge of this movement to get more of these young female singers on the radio and in appearances, and like you said, helping, having a cause in life to help people, and that's gonna win out. That's gonna win out any other politics that happen with radio or music or whatever recording. It's gonna win out. It's gonna win out.
And I mean, even this year, there's been so much momentum, I think, that's happened. I mean, between Gabby Barrett having her debut single go #1, and Carly Pierce had another #1, and Ingrid Andress and Maren Morris and Kelsey Ballerini, they all had #1s at country radio this year. And none of those are the top dogs, the Carrie Underwoods or the Miranda Lamberts of the country industry that really have been the only top hitters, heavy hitters for a while. And so it's given all of us hope,
Yeah.
There is some new things coming around, and labels are starting to realize the importance and make an effort to kind of bring that pendulum back to 50-50. So right. I have high hopes.
And what was you said before, you had made a statement about high hopes and low expectations. We're going to turn the expectations around and say high hopes and high expectations, because just like there's no plan B, no plan B, the high expectations have to be there too. And if it's not on that one, it'll be on the next one, right? Because there's so many rejection moments in a career that you have to be able to say no. If 99 people say no and that 100th person says, okay, we like your song, we'll take it, we'll record it. You have to be able to have those high hopes and then the high expectations, because of the fact that, it's okay if it doesn't work out that time. There's 99 more chances to do that.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that rings true in every career. It's not just, everybody has that dream of whatever their career is going to be. And, like I said, you just have to be stubborn enough to keep going and make it work. And you can't, especially in this career, you can't take no as a shoot down into your craft or your art or your talent. Because music is very much a subjective thing, and people are going to connect to it differently, depending on so many different factors. And one person could connect to your music completely differently depending on what kind of day they're having or what just happened in their life. And so this is definitely a career where you can't take anything personal. You just kind of have to take it for what it is and keep going.
And there's so many stories about artists who have shopped their music to all the major labels and were passed, and then they went back around again, and someone's in that label, in that organization, heard something special about them, a different person, a different perspective, like you said, different people hear music differently, and someone took a chance on them. If they had given up on the first round, and there's so many, I like to read autobiographies about musicians and watch documentaries and everything. So I got to find that Bluebird Cafe one. I got to find that. But, I love to watch documentaries about artists and how they got their start. And it's like, there's so many stories about people who, if they had given up, they would be doing something completely different in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's crazy to think that it's all, my dad tells me this all the time. My dad is very much a pusher, not a pusher, but an encourager of me, especially when I can get in my down and dark and gloomy phases. And, he always says it's just right around the corner. The corner might be a mile ahead. The corner might be 5 years ahead, but it's all just right around the corner. So keep pushing, keep going. There's going to be somebody.
Well, when you talk about the dark and gloomy, I'm just going to touch on this for like 5 seconds, and we're going to leave dark and gloomy alone here. But it's been a rough, crazy year for so many people in all industries. But it really is. Your industry is an industry where you're out meeting people and performing for them live and everything. So we're going to talk about it so briefly. But I think you have carried yourself very well. Just watching your interviews and seeing the different performances you've done, you're kind of like, yeah, I'm bummed, and then you always manage to keep this perspective. And, off camera, you might be like, oh, I'm just so frustrated right now. But you always keep that game face on when you talk to people about these last several months. Mm-hmm. And you do your best. And like I have heard you say, well, doing my best. It's not a perfect day, but I'm doing my best. Talk about that for like 5 seconds, because I don't want to dwell on the negative and the sad.
You're all good. We have to talk about it because it's happening.
Yeah.
I am very much an optimist, sometimes to a fault, but my glass is always 3/4 of the way full.
I like the 3/4. Mine is always half full. I thought I was doing good, but half full. I love the 3/4.
And you know what? I'm very much a thing of, there's a lot of things in life that are completely out of control, and 2020 has just been a whole year of that. And if I'm honest, I do a lot of times dwell on a lot of things that are out of my control, and it gets me completely down in the dumps. And so you and my parents are very good about, pulling me out of that and making me realize, hey, Paige, this isn't anything that you did. This isn't anything you can control. And so there's no use in beating yourself up about it or getting down and out about it. And, there's only trying to make it better and trying to make the situation better. And thank God I have faith that gets me through a lot of stuff, because I think a lot of us would just be, curled up in a corner waiting for 2020 to end.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that if there's no sunshine, you got to make your own. And so that's kind of been the whole mantra of 2020 so far. But, there's been a lot of good that's come out of all this as well. And I think if you're going to dwell on anything, you got to dwell on that instead of all the negative stuff. Because if you're going to dwell on the negative stuff, you're just going to be sad.
Yep. And it's wasted time, because there's so much you can do. You'll look back on this time and say, boy, I wish I had one of those days, a free day to just collect my thoughts. And now I'm running from here to there and performing, and I love doing it, but boy, I just need one day for myself. So you have these days now. It's like, then one day you won't have those days because you'll be so busy, which is good.
I think all of this has been an underlying, gift that we've just had a time to take a breather and maybe reanalyze all this crazy nonsense that we spend all of our time doing. I've heard from so many, friends and family who have kids or whatever, and they're just like, oh my gosh, we haven't had time to sit down and actually have a family meal without having to run this kid to soccer practice and this kid to dance, and then this kid has to go to the science fair at school. And all of them are very important things, but I think sometimes we get so busy in all the things that we make ourselves do that we don't get time to enjoy some other stuff. So it's been good.
Yeah, I think it helped us all to kind of reset a little bit, because we all run in so many directions, and just to be able to reset and rearrange our priorities and take some of the extra mush out of our lives that will allow us to be more productive when we get back to everyday busyness, you know?
And make us appreciate it more.
I appreciate so much more than I ever have. It's been wonderful. Yeah. Talk to you quickly about just what's coming up this weekend. You're got a busy weekend. I know today, you found ways to keep promoting your career, and you've got a couple things coming up. You've got the Summer Sway Marathon, Streamathon coming up this weekend. You're performing today.
I hope not a marathon. I can't run that.
They didn't tell you about that. Make sure they'll have your number for you. Your number is 740, 5 mile, 5K. No. It's you just get to do what you love to do. You get to sing today. Tell us a little bit about the Streamathon.
I'm so excited for it. I've never been part of like a virtual music festival, so it's really cool to be able to do that among so many great artists. I mean, they have Jamie O'Neal, and they have Matt Stell, and they have a lot of mates of mine on the PR side. So a lot of people that are with my PR company. So it's just a lot of fun, and all the people that you pass on the road whenever we're playing, and to be able to all kind of be part of this festival that we may not have all been able to be a part of if we were all running in 5 million directions. And so it's going to be 4 days of music that Country Sway is putting on, which is amazing. And the planning for all of that and the coordinating is just so out of my mind that it's great that they're doing all this. And not only that, but they're coming all together, and we're helping raise awareness and raise money for the Music Health Alliance, which they provide healthcare and healthcare services for people in the music industry who have been working. And I think there's been a lot of people in the music industry who, these times have been tough and jobs have been lost and everything. And so there's never been a better time to be able to raise awareness of what they're doing and to try to get some funds together to help them continue all of their work and their mission throughout all of this. And so, I love whenever my job brings together fun and a bigger purpose, and to be able to help people out, because music is very much a healing thing, but to be able to bring something to an organization that is actually doing healing is even better. And so I'm really excited, and I have high hopes and high expectations for everything that's going to happen over the next 4 days with all the artists playing, and them continuing to raise money for the Music Health Alliance. So I'm excited.
Yes, it sounds like a very exciting festival, and if that festival weren't enough for your schedule, you've also got the first annual Country Yard Party going on this weekend.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I've been dreaming up for over a year now of putting on a music festival in my hometown here in North Carolina, which I never knew how much it took to put on a music festival until I started trying to plan one myself. And so we're going to be having 4 local bands that are all friends of mine that I've been, playing with and writing with and kind of traveling around the North Carolina circuit for years now. And I'm just so excited to get everybody together. And, originally it was supposed to be in May before all this started happening. And then we had to postpone it, and not really, with a big question mark of not knowing if 2020 was, going to be the year that we could start it. But thankfully, with the help of a lot of local officials and the health department here in my county and the sheriff's office and everybody, we've spent months and months meeting and coming up with this plan to be able to still bring live music to people and bring them together, but just in a very safe and socially distant environment. So we are, this week is kind of all hands on deck, getting everything ready, and bringing people together for one of the first live music events that we've been able to have here in my hometown and in our county in general. And, I think we all just kind of need something to look forward to. For women, they just need a reason to be able to put on makeup for a day or a couple of hours and go out and be able to have fun. And so I'm really excited, and we're having, local food trucks as well. I'm I love being able to put back into my hometown and my community whenever I can. And this is where I got my start. And so whenever I can give back to it and try to continue to create live music opportunities for up and coming artists as well. And to be able to, see people from my hometown, it's so much fun. And so we're going to be getting together, and we have about 4.5 hours of live music with people all sitting in their little boxed off squares. And it's going to be a good time. I'm excited for it.
I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. And like you said, one of the first getting back to normal, whatever that means at this point, normal, but it's going to feel like normal because you're going to have people around again. You're going to have music and food, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be great. Yeah. And hopefully beautiful weather,
I'm hoping. Prayers out there. Pray that Hurricane Laura does not come this way, because right now she's trying to.
Push it out. We'll take push the rainstorms west, okay? Just something. I know they always go from west to east, but let's out of the way, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So is there anything that you think your fans would be surprised to know about you, like a special hobby or a special interest that's not related to music?
I really like baking, which is not a surprise for anybody who knows me, because they know I have the worst sweet tooth in the world, especially when it comes to chocolate. But yeah, baking and cooking in general, I've definitely got a better hand at cooking throughout all this. I've been home, and getting to watch my mama in the kitchen a lot has been really good and very educational for me. And but I love cooking. I'm so much of a foodie. But it's also just another one of those creative outlets that you can use. And um, I love being able to follow recipes and try out different things and figure out substitutions, and try to make it your own. It's such a good feeling to be able to know that you've put in all this time and effort, and especially if it's something from like garden to table, and you're starting from scratch. And it's a satisfying thing to be able to do it and to sit down and say, I did all of this,
Yeah.
and it's actually good.
Yeah. That
So,
doesn't happen to me too often. That doesn't happen when I'm cooking. That doesn't happen too often. So I get to appreciate other people. I love watching the junior cook shows with my son. I have a
yeah.
9-year-old son, and we watch those junior cook shows, and it's just amazing how focused they are to do
Oh,
that.
well, I am not on that level by any means, but we have a local, or my home church here in North Carolina. Um, they have a cookbook that a lot of the ladies in the church, they gathered up recipes from all of them, and ladies who have passed on. One of my grandmas, a lot of her recipes are in the cookbook as well. So I'll pull that out whenever I want to, try something new. And I'll sometimes come across her recipes and be able to make them too. So it's a really cool thing to be able to do, and just
Absolutely.
so much fun.
I want to tie things up because I know you have a very busy day ahead of you and a busy weekend. So I'm going to just ask you kind of a summary question in a sense, like, what should people know about your music or your career that's going to just make them want to follow you forever and ever? What is this momentum we can help you continue to build?
Yeah. Well, I tell people I am country to the core. I grew up on classic country music, and I think that what country music was built on was the storytelling aspect of it. And we talked a lot about songwriting, and how much I love songwriting. And so um, if there's anything that I know I'm going to be able to control about my career as we move forward and years ahead, is that every song that I'm going to release is going to be um, country to the core as well. And it's going to have steel guitar in it, and it's going to be the storytelling that I feel like is the firm foundation of all this stuff. And so um, I'm never going to release anything that I know isn't something that I absolutely want to say, and that I know that I won't follow me around for 20 or 30
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
And it's real life, and it's stuff that um that is always going to be something that is relatable to, and hopefully something that means something to people, and that can justify feelings that they're having as well, because I think that's the purpose of music, is to just kind of put everybody on equal playing fields. As artists, we kind of get put up on this pedestal that we're important people, and we are, but we're everyday people too. And I crawled out of a bed this morning just like you did, and just like the person down the street did. And one day we're all going to be in the same place. So
Yeah.
it's we're all going through the same things. It's just to different levels and degrees. And so my whole career is just going to be writing stories and telling stories of just that.
I just think that everything you've said today has been so inspiring, and so inspiring to young people who might want to follow in your footsteps. Think about the people that you followed, and then you may have a whole nother, world of people, that one generation of people that want to follow what you're doing, and seeing how happy you have been able to, all the successes you've had so far, and just the beginning.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, I just want to ask you I want to give you a chance to kind of tell people where they should find your music and your social media. Where's the best place to learn more about you?
Yeah, so my website is just paigekingjohnson.com, and all the social medias, the Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff is Paige King Johnson as well. I am not on TikTok because I don't know how to work it, but B, it just has not happened yet. So
That's a wait and see thing, right? Let's wait and see
you're
how
gonna
TikTok
miss
evolves.
that content from me, but I promise I'll make up for it in other places.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of a busy day. I'm super excited for you with all that you have going on. I hope it's a beautiful weekend for all the great things you have going on. And I wish you all the best in everything that you're about to do in your career.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.